AITA for telling MIL she could no longer babysit after she disregarded my son's dietary restrictions and caused him severe stomach pain. Hey Reddit, I, 32F, am in a really tough spot with my MIL, 58F, and I need some unbiased opinions. My husband, 34M, and I have been married for 10 years, and we live pretty close to his mom, which means she's heavily involved in our lives. She babysits our son Joey for M twice a week for a few hours while I work, and until recently it's been fine, or at least I thought so. Joey has a dairy sensitivity that causes severe stomach pain, vomiting, and other unpleasant symptoms. It's not a mild discomfort. It's a full-on issue that leaves him miserable for hours. We've been very clear with MIL that Joey cannot have any dairy products. No milk, no cheese, no ice cream, nothing. I've gone out of my way to provide alternatives like oat milk, dairy-free cheese, and even little treats that are safe for him, thinking it'd be easy for MIL to follow. But apparently that was too much to ask. The first time Joey came home complaining about his stomach, I thought maybe he'd eaten too fast or was just feeling off. But then it kept happening. Each time, he'd come home clutching his belly, saying it hurt. I asked him what he'd eaten, and he'd casually mention things like grandma's cheese sandwich or yummy ice cream. My heart would sink every time, knowing that he was going to suffer all night. I talked to MIL about it, and she brushed me off, saying things like, "A little bit won't hurt," or "He was just having so much fun, I didn't want to say no." I was polite but firm, reminding her of Joey's sensitivity and the pain it caused him. She would nod and apologize, but clearly, it was going in one ear and out the other. I turned to my husband, hoping he'd back me up, but instead, he accused me of overreacting. "Kids get stomach aches, it's normal," he'd say, rolling his eyes like I was making a big deal out of nothing. I tried explaining that Joey's symptoms weren't just a typical stomach ache. It was agony for him. But my husband just shrugged it off. I even found out he'd been texting MIL behind my back, telling her that I was upset, but that she shouldn't worry about it. That felt like a punch to the gut. I thought we were a team, but he was acting like I was the enemy. Yesterday was the tipping point. Joey came home after spending the afternoon with MIL, and I immediately knew something was wrong. His face was pale, and he was clutching his stomach again. I asked what he'd eaten, and through tears, he mumbled, "Milk and ice cream." My heart dropped. Joey spent the next few hours throwing up, crying, and doubled over in pain. He didn't get to sleep until after 2 a.m., and I had to call out of work to watch him the next day. Seeing him like that made me feel so guilty. I kept asking myself why I'd let this keep happening. I made up my mind then and there. I couldn't keep putting Joey through this. I found a babysitter in our neighborhood who was available on the days MIL usually watched Joey, and I decided to hire her instead. I texted MIL to let her know about the change. I was polite and thanked her for all her help, explaining that we had decided to go in another direction because of Joey's health. I thought it was the kindest way to handle the situation without causing a scene. Boy, was I wrong. Within minutes, MIL was calling me, and she was furious. She was screaming so loudly, I could barely make out what she was saying, but the gist was that I was stealing her grandson from her. She accused me of poisoning Joey against her and claimed I had no right to keep her away. She even threatened to sue us for grandparents' rights. The conversation was so hostile that I hung up on her, blocked her number, and haven't spoken to her since. But it didn't stop there. MIL rallied her side of the family, and now they're all sending me angry messages, saying I'm being unreasonable and tearing the family apart. My husband, meanwhile, is upset that his mom is mad at him. He says I should have just kept quiet, that it's only a few hours a week, and that I'm overreacting. I can't believe he's still defending her after all this. Things took an even darker turn when I got an email from my husband's aunt, a lawyer, who decided to chime in on behalf of MIL. She explained what grandparents' rights could mean in our state and suggested that MIL might have a legitimate claim to visitation. She didn't outright threaten us with legal action, but it was enough to make me realize that this wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. This was becoming a battle. I tried to talk to my husband about how serious this was getting, but he continued to minimize it. "She's just upset," he said. "She's not actually going to do anything." But I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to protect Joey, even if it meant standing up to the entire family. I feel torn. On one hand, I'm confident that I'm doing what's best for Joey. I can't keep letting him be in pain because MIL refuses to respect his dietary needs. But on the other hand, I don't want to be the reason my husband's relationship with his mom deteriorates. I didn't want this to turn into a war with his entire family, but it feels like I had no other choice. I've considered maybe meeting with MIL one more time to try and explain things, but I fear it would just turn into another screaming match. Part of me wonders if I should have handled this differently, or if there's some compromise I'm missing. But then I remember Joey's face when he's sick, and it solidifies my resolve. So Reddit, AITA, for stopping my MIL from babysitting my son after she repeatedly ignored his dietary restrictions? Should I have tried harder to keep the peace? Or was I right to finally put my foot down?